So yeah, so everybody's talking about divorce. Okay. All right, so yes, Chris and I are going through a divorce. I was not planning on sharing this information until it was finalized. So I actually filed back in April 14th. We had a mediator like throughout this whole process. And when we felt like we got to a point where it was like, okay, we pretty much on the same page with moving forward with things, I did go to the courthouse and file. So a lot of information that was like put out there, it was put out there, number one, while I was on vacation. I was on a meditation retreat in Costa Rica. Y'all want to know what I'm drinking. I'm drinking Dr. Nettles turmeric ginger tea. It's amazing. So good. I drink it every morning. So yeah, so you listen every morning. Oh, thank you. I love on radio, like literally my dream job. So yeah, so I was in Costa Rica minding my own black business, and I was on a meditation retreat. So, you know, whether you're the person who seeks a divorce or the person that was asked for the divorce by the other person, either way, the process is very stressful. It's like going through a death, you know, in so many ways. Chris and I have been together for 17 years. We've been married for 11 years. Do I do the show at home? No, I do the show in the studio. So yeah, somebody said at the reunion, so y'all talking about Love and Marriage DC. The reunion, that many people believe the reason you did the show was to set up a divorce to Chris. You both laughed, yet here you are. I hope you both find peace. Yeah, so just because we were going through it last year, which we were, last year was very rough. When we were going through our emotions and we were trying to figure things out, the goal was not to get divorced. That wasn't where we were last year. Like, even when people said last year that we were going our separate ways and all of that, Chris and I were trying every which way to figure out, like, how do we get that connection back? How do we bring it back together? And so even at that time, it wasn't true. Like, we weren't seeking a divorce. We were separated in a sense of like, okay, you focus on you, I focus on me, and let's see what happens. So we have been going through this process, and it's been years, you know, like marriage, as many people know, it has its ups and downs, but you get to a point where you feel like you've reached that moment of like, you know what, are we growing? You know, are we stagnant? Are we moving? Like, what's going on? And then you also have to consider the fact that we have 3 children, you know, who are watching us. Our actions and how we interact with each other, how we run our household, that is literally an example for our children of how they're going to live their life, you know? And I don't want our children to ever be in a relationship where they feel like they're not being heard, whether that's on my side or Chris's side, you know, talking at each other, like the marriage becomes like a battlefield. So you get to a point where you also have to consider the fact that we have 3 little people that are literally looking at us, and they're taking notes, and they're like, okay, this is what's normal, and it's not normal. So yeah, so that's where we are. You guys don't have to be sorry. It's just a part of life. Unfortunately, sometimes it happens. Some people stay married forever. Some people don't. My parents were married for 23 years and got divorced. I know couples that have been married for 60 years and they're miserable, and they literally let their whole life just fade away, you know? So it's really what you make it. And if you get to a point where you're like, you know what, we have grown so far apart that it may be best that we focus on ourselves individually and then focus on the 3 important people in our lives, which is our children. And that's what we decided to do. So let me see. How do you keep out the noise and find your balance and peace during this time? So one of the major things for me has been really finding myself. I've been on this self-love journey. I never realized how much I didn't love myself. That was like a huge revelation, because I always felt, because I'm a very secure person, I thought that was self-love. I wasn't aware of myself, you know. I was completely unaware of myself. Even watching last year when we were on Love and Marriage DC, I mean, I was going through it. Like, I was yelling, I was upset. That was me crying out. That was me like really fighting. Like, I was like on my last leg fighting for my marriage, and really hoping that we could see where each other was, and try to get on the same page. But when I look back on it, even with the editing trickery, at the end of the day, my response was still my response, you know, and I take accountability for that. And I wouldn't have want to be with a person like that is just like, yeah. But I also realized that my approach became that because I was so desperate, like, to be heard. I was so desperate, like, come on, we got to make this work. But then you get to a point where you realize that begins to tear you down, yourself and the other person. And then you're trying to pick up the pieces and build it back. And it just becomes this roller coaster, you know, and it becomes more and more difficult. So I did not want to get to that point where now there's so much friction and tension that now we can't even parent our kids. And so many times you see couples take to social media, bash each other. And it's like, how does this